Shrek is arguably one of the best kids franchises of all time. It has, like, all the movies are totally different. Some of them have humor, some of them have more emotion, some of them have better plots, and some of them have more adventure and fun. Today, I'm going to rank all the Shrek movies, including Puss in Boots, from the worst to the best. Enjoy. Coming in number 5 is easily Shrek the Third. I was honestly really disappointed with this movie. I really like the humor during the first half of the movie. I really like a lot of the ideas that they had during the first half of the movie, but the last half, it's just like the ideas they have aren't really used anymore, and the humor isn't really there. Like all the adult innuendos that they had during the first half of the movie isn't really there anymore. There seemed to be a lot of unfinished scenes, in my opinion. There seemed to be a lot of reusing of animation, and yeah, the ending wasn't the best. We didn't get to see what happened to Prince Charming, and the fact that they reused Prince Charming was not a good idea. Like, I wish that they did somebody that would revenge our Shrek for some reason, because of his past, because we would have been able to learn about his past, and also we'd get a villain that just doesn't want the throne from him, too. So, a movie with a lot of good ideas. I really like the idea of making Prince Arthur like a wimpy teenage high schooler is a really cool idea. The idea of getting all the villains to take over far away as revenge is a really good idea too. They just don't really use them that well during the movie. Like, they just don't use them that well. Coming in at number 4 is Shrek Forever After. This is a movie that I was not looking forward to watching. I remember this being one of my least favorite Shrek films. I kind of misjudged it a little. Like, it's a movie that does not have that much humor. I think that's why I didn't like it that much, because it doesn't have all the humor that the other Shrek movies have. But it's also a movie that is a little bit more emotional, I guess. Yeah, it's more emotional. Like, the idea of getting Shrek to not exist in the universe, in the Shrek universe, is a really interesting idea. I really like the idea of nobody knowing who he is and the effect that he had on all of his friends around him. I wish at the beginning of the movie that Shrek would feel a little useless, because then I feel like that would have made it a little bit more of an interesting idea to show. Then he'd see, like, wait, like, people actually appreciate me. This is where they'd be if I wasn't around. But the humor isn't really there. The villain is really good. Way better than Prince Charming. Probably better for Farquaad too. And yeah, so a movie that has an okay villain, has a decent enough plot, has a couple of emotional moments, I guess, and has some very creative ideas. I had to give him that. It's a movie with some fun scenes in it, and without the humor of the Shrek franchise too. Just so everybody knows, this is where I started to have trouble ranking them, because the rest of these movies are really good. They all have the charm and wit in them. So if your favorite movie is lower than you were expecting, just tell me in the comments section, and you have the right to your own opinion. Coming in at number 3 is Puss in Boots. This is a movie that tries to combine on the adventure and the humor of the first 2 Shrek movies in one movie, but without Shrek in it. And it's actually a movie that turns out really well. It's a movie with a lot of humor. Well, with not the best humor of the franchise, but it still does have some good humor, a lot, and it's probably the most adventurous film in the franchise, honestly. It might be the funnest movie in the franchise. It has a lot of fun scenes in it. And it's also very cool that the characters and their emotions are the main villain, usually. Like, usually the characters and, like, them dealing with their emotions and, like, their past and stuff is usually the main villain, because they don't really have a main villain during the movie except for people that appear in, like, 3 different scenes, and I'd probably end up complaining about that if the main villain wasn't really characters in their relationships and how in their past and stuff. So, and yeah, so a movie that has a lot of adventure, probably the most adventurous film in the franchise, a lot of fun, And most of all, a really, really interesting villain. Probably the best villain in the franchise. And because it's themselves, I think that themselves, and I think that's very cool. And it's very surprising that Puss in Boots could carry a film on his own. Coming in at number 2 is the original Shrek movie. This is a movie that I really, really like. It's probably in my opinion, it's the movie that I prefer in this franchise. I'll get into why I putting this in second place when I get to Shrek 2, but this is probably one of the funniest kids films of all time. A lot of humor. I like the scene with Robin Hood is probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole franchise. And also the characters and their interactions are like really, really good. Like the breakup scene in the movie is like really good. I actually felt emotion during it like almost every time I watched the movie. So I guess the main thing about this movie and why it's loved a lot is the humor is the main reason why I like this movie. And I guess the plot is decent. And the romance between Shrek and Fiona is okay. I wish that they had a little bit more time together, but because they spent like half their time fighting and then they just have one good day together and then they're instantly in love, and I just thought, okay, that was kind of quick, but whatever. And so yeah, it's a movie that I really, really like. Probably one of my favorite films in the franchise because it's probably the kids film with the most adult innuendo, like that are more funny than cringeworthy. Coming in at number 1 is Shrek 2. I prefer the original Shrek movie, but this is technically a better movie because there's just so much about this movie that there's to love about this movie. The humor isn't as good as the original Shrek movie. I have to give it that. I think that's why it's not I think that's why I prefer the original Shrek movie more. And then but the plot is a little bit better. The characters are better. They're trying to make it more relatable. They're trying to have more of an arc. They're trying to have Shrek more development. And they're trying to, it's just so cool to see Shrek just trying to make Fiona happy during the whole movie. He's willing to actually leave her if he thinks he's actually willing to leave his true love to actually just make her happy. And I just think that is a very, very relatable thing in my opinion. I thought the villains were a little bit better, but I felt like Fairy Godmother was a better villain than Farquaad for sure. Like she might be the best villain of the second best villain of the franchise against the characters on emotions in Puss in Boots. And then so yeah, this is easily one of the best films. A lot of fun, a lot of good characters in it, a lot of good development, a decent amount of funny moments, and the second best villain in the whole franchise. Okay, everyone, that's my list. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you have a different opinion, tell me down in the comments section. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And also, I'm arguing against doing the Jumanji franchise or How to Train a Dragon franchise next. Which one do you want to see me do next? Or if there's another franchise you want to see me rank, tell me down in the comments section. Have a good week, everybody.